world is a place of balance. There are good things and bad things that coexist in our everyday life. While the good things bring joy, the bad things create destruction, sadness, and death. But what if there was a way to control some of the bad things in life? What if humans could eliminate some of the death, sadness, and destruction that comes from the unknown sides of nature? These were the kinds of questions that inspired Max Theiler to create a vaccine for the infamous yellow fever. The caring nature and profound genius of this man is shown through his hard work and dedication to put a stop to the yellow fever disease. However, many things had to take place before Theiler's breakthrough. Many things indeed.
Come here, son. Come look at this dog.
Yes, Father?
It's quite miraculous how some simple remedies can help bring a dog who seemed to be on the brink of death, bring him back to life.
Yes, Father. It's quite interesting. Perhaps next time you perform on him, I can be there to observe firsthand.
Of course, son. Now, I'm real glad to see that you're into my works. Now, come on. Let's go get some dinner.
Max Theiler was born January 30th, 1899 in Pretoria, South Africa. As the son of Sir Arnold Theiler, a veterinary scientist, Max spent the early years of his life fascinated by animals and their relation to medicine. However, his path would extend to far more than simply animal health. He was the scientist who ended up creating a vaccine to stop the deadly yellow fever.
Max Theiler was very invested in his studies. He was educated in South Africa through completion of his degree in medical school. He went to Switzerland, his father's home country, to study. From there, he went to London for postgraduate work in 1916 to 1918 at three schools: St. Thomas's Hospital, the London School of Tropical Medicine, and Rhodes University. In 1922, he moved to the United States for research at Harvard University School of Tropical Medicine. He then moved to the Rockefeller Institute in New York, where he became the director of the virus lab in 1930. He lived in the United States till his death.
All of those long hours of hard work eventually paid off, and Theiler finally obtained his medical degree in 1922. While his heart was at home in South Africa, London became a very important place for his career. Even though his early work was with rat bite fever, it was there in London that he developed his interest in yellow fever. Yellow fever, a very deadly disease at the time, was a major topic of discussion among scientists in the 1920s and 30s. Killing you from the inside out, the disease causes severe bleeding that destroys the organs. However, not much was known about yellow fever for a long time until Theiler and his colleagues determined that it was small enough to pass through a fine-pored filter. It was also discovered that a mosquito called Aedes aegypti spreads it. All hope seemed to be lost until a West African by the name of Asibi, who had contracted the disease and survived, allowed scientists, including Theiler, to use his blood for testing.
My brother Asibi was very ill. When he had yellow fever, he was sad and miserable. It seemed like life had left him after he got the disease. We knew chances of survival were low, but he did it. Of course, he wanted to help others do it too. Very quickly, he came in contact with doctors, who were joyfully surprised at his survival. They used his blood for the first test for the vaccine. It was his blood sample from which the virus was isolated. As a sister, I was just happy to see him healthy and smiling again.
Theiler's progress in the scientific community was undoubtedly great. He was wholeheartedly devoted to his work. Despite his busy life, he had a very successful home life as well. In 1928, he married Lillian Graham, and together they had a single child, a little girl. During his research of yellow fever, Theiler discovered that the virus could be transmitted to mice. Upon this, he did further research and showed that mice that were given serum from other animals or even humans that had formerly been infected with yellow fever developed immunity to it. This was absolutely groundbreaking because it led Theiler to develop the first vaccine for the yellow fever disease. In 1937, after many tests and trials, Theiler and his colleagues finally made a yellow fever vaccine. It was called 17D, and not only did it work, but it worked quickly. Theiler's vaccine proved effective because it eliminated the urban form of the disease. The 17D vaccine saved many lives.
That's it. Subject 42 and 43 are both symptom-free.
This matches up with our last trials too. Your vaccine works, and it works quickly.
I suggest you write a paper and get it published so your vaccine can be distributed.
Yes, good idea. 17D is a successful vaccine. We can now save lives.
Although Theiler created his 17D vaccine in 1937, he was not recognized for his achievement until over 2 decades later. In 1951, Max Theiler was awarded the only Nobel Prize for medicine in that year. On top of that, Theiler is the only Nobel Prize winner to this day to win the award for the development of a virus vaccine.
And the Nobel Prize for Medicine on this day, December 10, 1951, goes to Max Theiler for the development of 17D, the yellow fever vaccine.
Thank you for this award. It is an honor to be able to stand before you all today and say that I am the one who created this life-saving vaccine. It would have been completely impossible without help from my colleagues, and I would like to thank them for their assistance. I would also like to thank my professor for giving me the knowledge I needed to be this successful. I'd like to thank my father, whose hard work as a veterinary scientist inspired me to do what I do today. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Lillian, for not hating me for spending more time in labs than I did with her, and for never-ending support. Thank you.
Max Theiler truly was a genius. His kind nature and perseverance as a scientist made him successful. His vaccine helped to eradicate urban yellow fever, and his discoveries are remarkable. He is the only person to win a Nobel Prize for the development of a virus vaccine. This is so much more important because he did what nobody else could do. He created a vaccine for yellow fever, a disease that has caused life-threatening epidemics throughout the last 500 years of human civilization. He saved lives.
For years, yellow fever has affected the lives of many, many people. Annually, around 30,000 people lose their lives from it. Thanks to the work and leadership of a single man, an astounding stand to yellow fever has been made. Max Theiler, a South African Nobel Prize winning scientist, is this single man. Theiler did what no one else could do, and he did it excellently. Through years of research, collaborations, and pure diligence, Theiler produced 17D, the first ever vaccine to treat the yellow fever disease. His vaccine ended the spread of yellow fever in entire areas in the world. As to this day, no other scientist has received the Nobel Prize for the creation of a vaccine that treats a virus. That is the record Theiler set. He died August 11, 1972, already having seen the change his work did in the world. His work was truly glorious. 17D allowed the human race to take a step forward over one of nature's taboos. With that, more lives will be saved and lived. More second chances, more history can be made, and more hope for a tomorrow.
Come here, son. Look at this dog. It's quite miraculous how
Oh, I might also.
Oh my God, what's wrong with you?
I think
I suggest you. What are you doing?
talking to me right now?